Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. In honor of the Michigan spring game getting kicked off Saturday afternoon, the fellas are going to draft their own Michigan spring game defenses heading into Saturday. We're going to need you guys to be the judge of this one. Kind of a fun exercise to talk about some of the top players on this Michigan defense. Get us ready for the spring game on Saturday. Going to need you guys to be the judges in the comment section. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. A massive shout out to the Michigan fans. Y'all know we love talking this program. The amount of support y'all continue to show truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And much more importantly, let us know in the comments section who wins this one. And Dill, I'm going to kick this one off to you. You wanted the first pick. I wanted the second and third pick, so I'm okay with it. Who you got first overall?
I think it's got to be Will Johnson. And I just think you look at this Michigan defense and who's like far and away the best at their position. I'm not sure he's necessarily the best player in Michigan's defense. I think it's between him and Mason Graham. But just given how much better or how much of a gap I think there is, at least a perceived gap between him and the second cornerback, and just how dynamic he is and how dominant he's been for the first 2 years of his career, I think it's got to be Will Johnson for me.
Massive mistake. And that's a classic mistake where if you know how I value defenses, it starts in trench warfare. You can have a secondary that you have some question marks about, like Michigan might have. But if you have an elite defensive line, an elite front seven that's wrecking games, it doesn't really matter. Dill, you allowed me.
It gets a lot easier to play defense in the secondary when you can wall off of half of the field and not have to worry about it.
I think it's fair. It's 100% not a shot at Will Johnson, but you're giving me the opportunity to take Mason Graham and Kenny Grant. I certainly am doing that. Love what I have on the inside. You get your next two picks.
Well, then give me Barham and Houseman. If we want to play that. I think you're missing the boat here. I don't know why you wouldn't just take one of those guys and one of the linebackers. Again, I think Barham might be one of the better players on this defense. I think he's going to wake up a lot of people. And then Houseman, I think he kind of started to show. I mean, he didn't get a ton of cracks, but like you can just see he is going to be that guy. I think he is very much ready. And frankly, behind that, you look at Rolder, Hood, I think those guys are good players, but I don't think they're starting level guys on a defense as good as Michigan right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Like you got the two starting linebackers. I guess my argument against that would be it's easy to play linebacker when you're playing behind Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. So I think having dogs up there takes a little bit pressure off the linebackers. And again, that's kind of why I went with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant back-to-back picks, is I think it gets easy to play defense when you are having elite interior defensive linemen. Now, the question is, do I want to just go full in on this Michigan defensive line? Just grab the straight starting four, Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart. I'm going to grab one of them, but then I'm going to go back and grab one of our top guys in the secondary. That's going to be Makari Page at the safety position. Give me Josiah Stewart, Makari Page as my next two picks here.
All right. Then I'm taking Derek Moore first. And why don't you give me Jair Hill second? I think if I can lock up these top two corners, I think I got Derek Moore. And again, I think you're underrating how deep Michigan's defensive line is just because you haven't seen them play as much. But I think they kind of rolled too deep. You kind of look at a Rayshon Benny at defensive tackle. I don't know that you're giving up. You got a starting piece there. I think he'd play on most teams. Again, maybe he doesn't get his shot at Michigan as much just because of how good Michigan was last year. But I think Michigan's defensive line's a lot deeper than kind of your strategy is giving them credit for, frankly.
I think it's less of me not giving them credit in terms of the depth. I think I'm giving more credit to, I think this is the best starting four you see in college football on that defensive line. So I want to start with some of those guys. Dill, okay, one, I apologize for misspelling her. That Ernest Hausman does not look right. I know I spelled it wrong. No disrespect.
Hey, you're close. It's just
I was close, but I just want to make sure I'm not disrespecting my guy, Ernest Hausman. Going to be a dog in 2024. Now, where I'm going to go here, and the Jair Hill pick's really interesting because that's kind of where I was going to go lean because he is my guy to emerge at that other cornerback spot, and he kind of put me in a tough spot in terms of where I'm going to go. Dill, I'm going to make sure I'm solidified in the back end because I do have some question marks, especially not getting Will Johnson. I'm going to go Jaden McBurrows, and I'm going to put him at my boundary cornerback spot. And then I'm going to go, because I think he's probably the next best proven cornerback. And then I'm going to go big Zeke Berry at my nickel. And I think that rounds out a pretty – like the bones in my secondary. Zeke Berry, a very much projectable take there, but I love what Zeke Berry brings to the table from an athletic tool set in terms of playing that nickel. Jaden McBurroughs probably going to play a lot of nickel for Michigan as well, but I'll put him at my boundary cornerback spot, make sure my cornerback room or my secondary room is certainly taking some steps in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I get that 100%. I think next one I'll go TJ Guy you can start with. I'm getting the sense that he's really playing good. People are talking a whole lot about him. And I think at the other spot, give me Quentin Johnson. Just a guy I need to solidify that safety spot. I can't let you strip all the experience out of that room. And again, he's the guy I kind of waffle with, frankly, between taking him and Hillman, because I do get the sense if Hillman kind of takes that jump, I mean, a lot higher potential for sure, a little bit bigger, probably a little bit more of athletic upside. But I think the way Quentin Johnson was able to kind of stabilize it, that room at times, especially filling in for some injuries and playing really good in games like Ohio State and even Alabama, I think I need some experience back in that back end of it.
Yeah, and I think what I'm going to do here is play a little bit of the game here, and you are missing a safety, so I'm going to grab the last safety here in Brandon Hillman. And then I think I'm going to go – now, I don't need to take a linebacker, a little gamesmanship out of here because you took your two linebackers. I think I'm going to go with Cameron Brand as my second edge rusher. I've heard some good things about him. He was one of those guys coming out late edition in the 2023 class. You're hearing some really good things. I think he's in line to be in that two deep. So I'll take Cameron Brand. I would have much preferred to have TJ Guy, a guy that I really do think breaks out. But I like what my defensive line looks like. I wish I could have gotten TJ Guy to round that one out. But I really like what I have in the secondary. You got Will Johnson, but I think I rounded out a very strong secondary the rest of the way.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of looking. I really got to take some projects here at that secondary spot. I mean,
yeah, you do.
Probably got to go Cody Jones at the nickel. Maybe that's safe. I mean, I'm kind of debating whether him or Kayshawn Harris. I'll go Kayshawn Harris in the nickel, Cody Jones at the safety. That just feels like it makes – I've seen Kayshawn Harris play some cornerback, so I feel like at least solid cover guy. And I'll just see what happens at the other spot. I mean, again, two guys aren't wildly proven. Kayshawn Harris, seen a little bit of him, but
so now you don't really have much of a pass rush here. TJ Guy. No disrespect.
Actually, hold on. Give me DJ Waller at the nickel, and I know that's probably playing him a little bit out of position, but yeah, no, I gotta have DJ Waller there. It's out of position, but that he is probably that next guy in that
6'3", 200 pounds. You can trust him in the box a little bit now. This goes back, and I'll give my two picks next, but this kind of goes back to my conversation where you got Will Johnson, but then I feel like I would want to have guys like Mason Graham and Kenny Grant on the inside to really take some ease off that secondary, because that secondary might have some holes in it, and I don't know if you have the pass rush to match. I'm making a little pitch to the listeners, to the Michigan fans, to give me the votes. All right, I got one other corner. I'm getting lost in my spreadsheet here, so I got one other cornerback spot to fill. I got two linebacker spots to fill.
You can just fill it all now because it doesn't matter. I just got my.
No, I need to think. You can't rush me like that. I'm gonna go Jimmy Rolder and Hood probably at my linebacker spot, and I need some time to think about who I want to take at my next cornerback spot.
Right, well, I have my D tackles ready, so you can take a second. I think it's easy. I think it's Rayshon Benny, and I think it's Etta. Again, another guy we haven't seen, but you just kind of think, okay, he adds 20 more pounds or whatever he's going to add. He kind of came in a little light for a defensive tackle, but real high upside. I think you saw some good things last year in that UNLV game if you go back to it. I mean, he's got a lot of upside. I'd say slightly concerned about the size in there. And Rayshon Benny's a decent sized guy, but I am running a little bit small in this defensive line, I'd probably say, but that's what I got. I think, I'm really excited. I really want to see him play early and a lot. He's just kind of one of those guys. He's just kind of very much an unknown, but a very exciting player.
So I was thinking, I agree with Etta, very much unknown. I was putting thought into my cornerback, and Dill, I'm almost leaning Jacob Oden, who I know is probably going to play safety for us, but I really like him as a true freshman. I don't feel comfortable with that, but I think that might be the play. I loved him coming out.
I feel like you're sleeping on Miles Pollard a little bit, frankly. I think Miles Pollard might be again, not a guy we'll probably see a ton of, but a decent reserve guy. Saw him play a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
Kind of long, smooth player, but I don't know. That you're
I'll
kind
have
of
to go with him. I'll take the assist there. I'll take the assist there. All right, let's do a little eval, and I guess we'll give an opportunity to pitch our teams to the Michigan fans. Though on the defensive line, you got to give me the edge, but your defensive line, I feel like you might have had the right idea in terms of we have some depth on the defensive line, and so you could kind of fill that in. You get the massive advantage at the linebacker and the two starting linebackers, I think, by a pretty good margin. Now, I think the tiebreaker here is in the secondary, where you by far have the best cornerback in Will Johnson. I probably lean myself with the safeties. Bill, who do you think has the edge in the secondary room between our two teams?
It's got to be you, right? I think I left too much in that safety room. I think, again, I'm a Jair Hill guy, but if I'm probably doing it again, I probably have to take Hillman or McBurrows or Zeke Berry at that second kind of pick, just because I think, again, with Rod Moore going down, you have a little bit less depth in that, and you got 3 spots to fill, safety and nickel. I probably should have gone with Zeke Berry or McBurrows, one of those guys. And then, again, I don't know how much bet, like Waller versus Pollard, I mean, 2 projects. Obviously, it feels like Waller has more of the upside that people kind of want to do.
Agreed.
I mean, I probably misplayed that. So I'd probably have to give you the secondary realistically, just because I think it's a little bit more well-rounded.
Let it fly in the comments section. Jay wins, I think, but we'll let you guys decide. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. We're going to do the same thing for the offensive side of the football. That'll be a wild one. A lot of position battles, a lot of different ways you could go. Again,
my head's spinning about how to fill 10 offensive linemen, because I know we got like good 5 to 7, but man,
I think we got more than that. We'll see. It'll be a conversation for another day. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. We had a blast doing this. We kind of came up with this idea. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. Let us know in the comment section who wins, and we'll talk to y'all later.